Go ahead on 2 for the PAO.
Yeah, Mike, just letting you know we're ready for you in the gem. We'll be ready for an on-time start. And just to clarify your question before, you'll be talking on the...
Okay, yeah, I know I was on the headset. You're on 2. Copy, and I'll be there in a second.
Com check.
And on 2 for the PAO. I know there was some work going on in here.
Just checking that the camera view is still good.
And station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston Station, we're ready for the event.
KGW-TV, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Devin Haskins from KGW-TV. How do you hear me?
Devin Haskins from KGW-TV. I got you loud and clear. How me from the station?
You sound great from here.
Okay, you sound great as well. I'm ready for the event. I do hear a lot of static in the background there, but it seems to be mitigating, and I understand you perfectly.
Sounds good. If we're good to go, then I'll just jump right into it. Michael, you were interested in astronomy and space at an early age. I'm kind of curious to know, when you got into it, did it meet those expectations?
Well, yeah, and more. I think it's important to note I was interested in a lot of things at an early age, that being marine biology and astronomy and telescope building and chemistry. And I think a lot of people in the local area know about the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry. I kind of grew up as an OMSI kid, and I was able to explore some of those areas as a kid, actually, doing some of the camps and doing some of the activities at OMSI. So that actually had a lot to do with kind of nurturing those broad interests. And when you look at broad interests, there's no place that brings those all together like the space program does, like NASA has done for me. So, yeah, I would say it has met and exceeded all of my expectations.
This mission right now, you guys just launched earlier this month, and you'll be there for about 6 months. Talk about the work that you're going to be doing while up at the International Space Station.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the International Station is a science laboratory. It's a very vibrant and humming science laboratory. And you can see behind me there's power and data cables and racks that support our science experiments everywhere. And this is just one of several modules. So basically, you know, being a science weenie, I'm kind of a kid in a candy store up here doing every kind of science experiment you can possibly imagine. So that includes a lot of life sciences. For me, how the human adapts is really my passion, and so the human medical studies are quite interesting. But we also do fluid physics and combustion and basic cell biology, Earth observation. I mean, there's just no end to the kind of experiments we can do, partly because of the platform we have over the Earth, and partly because of the absence of gravity, which really masks a lot of things on the ground. When you take it away, you find things, and you can really study things in detail. So mainly a lot of science up here.
I understand also that, as you had said, how space interacts or affects the human body and the blood flow within that human body, taking away gravity, right?
Yeah, I would have to say that every system in the body changes when it gets into zero gravity, and mostly it's the body adapting to kind of get to a place where it wants to be when there's no gravity. And so that includes losing maybe 15% of your blood volume in your red blood cells, and your heart changes shape, changes position. You get a little taller, your waist gets a little thinner, sounds great, although you pay for that at the end. Your immune system changes, and the way blood flow is regulated changes. And that's just about half of what really happens, and there's a lot more detail in that. So I mean, it's really quite fascinating how adaptable we really are.
This is not your first time up at the International Space Station. In fact, you've been a couple times before. What has changed aboard the space station that was different this time?
Well, that's a really good question. Some of the tools we have for research are much better. Our procedures and our guidance are basically on tablets that we can carry around now. And when we have these in our hands to do a complex science procedure, that is really helpful compared to what we used to have to do, which is go to a computer for every step. As you see, there's a lot of data cables behind me because we've upgraded our IT systems and our Ethernet capabilities. The infrastructure wasn't built necessarily to accommodate all of these, and so we kind of put them together on the outside of the racks, as you see. But that makes us much more capable as a laboratory. And some of the ways we run our operations with our international and industry and academic partners are also, I think, much better, much more complex. But having said that, the station is still this wonderful old station that I remember. It's big, it's capable, it's very international. Our Russian counterparts have added modules to their section of the station. It's just really cool to see them adding up their science as well. So some things have changed. The food is about the same, but I like the food, and the camaraderie around the galley table is great.
I was going to say, how many more trips to space do you got in you?
Well, that's not up to me. If it were up to me, I'd say certainly more than this. I am really, really thrilled to be up here now, though. So if the opportunity arises, I'll be ready to go.
Here in a couple weeks, as I'm sure you're well aware, the solar eclipse will happen on April 8th. Do you know yet where you'll be and kind of how you'll be able to look at it, and what does it look like from up there?
Well, the second question first. We'll get two different views that are of interest to us. You know, one of which is be able to see the disk of the sun starting to be eclipsed. The other one is the shadow that passes across the Earth. And I've seen that from about 35,000 feet in an aircraft in 2017 off the coast of Oregon, actually. And that was pretty amazing. But to see a much broader view of the Earth and watching that shadow traverse it, that's another really interesting thing for us. So we'll be turning our cameras both ways. As far as the phasing goes, we're not exactly sure with 100% certainty where we will be at every stage yet, but we're getting closer to that understanding. Of course, we orbit the Earth every 90 minutes, and so this is like doing eclipse photography from a really fast car. But we're looking forward to pointing our cameras in whatever direction seems right to us.
I was at a fifth grade classroom yesterday and said, hey, I'm going to talk to an astronaut aboard the space station. Is there a question that you would ask him? So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you a couple of their questions they had for me. The first one being, what's it like in space?
Well, the short answer is it's really cool. So you can tell them that. There's maybe a couple of things that really make space amazing. One is zero gravity. So, I mean, this is zero gravity. It's something you have to get used to, but after a while, you love it. You become a three-dimensional creature, and you fly like Superman, and you can move heavy things, and it's just really awesome. The other thing is the Earth views. You know, when you're in space, you're almost dominated by that view of the Earth. It just changes your perspective on the planet that you live on, that is your home. You sense the beauty and the fragility of it. That is a large living reality of what space is really like for us. And you're in a small-ish enclosure. So it's up to you to get along with your shipmates and to do your work in spite of the vastness that you're inside of, or that you're a part of, really. But those are kind of the things that I talk about when I talk about what it's like to be in space.
Another one is what is your favorite food to eat up there?
I'm not really a good guide because I kind of eat everything. I'm notorious for that. But some of the things I really like, the shrimp cocktail is great. Because we're an international station, we have food from everywhere. So some of the Russian foods I really like quite well. So the lamb stew, there's a cottage cheese type thing with nuts. In Russian, it's tvorog s orekami. It's one of my favorite foods ever. And we really like the Japanese curries and fish dishes.
And then maybe on a more serious note, how do you take care of your mental health while up there for that long of a time?
Mental health. Well, I mean, I love being up here. You know, I can answer that two ways. You know, first of all, academically, we've actually studied psychological profiles of people on both the U.S. side and the Russian side, and there is what we call a salutatory effect of being in space. Everybody loves being up here, and for the most part, it's a very psychologically enhancing experience. You know, that's what the academics say. If you just ask any astronaut, they say, oh, geez, it's great to be in space. Of course it is. And the memories you make here, you carry forever. So from a mental standpoint, you know, aside from missing family, it's just a very, very positive experience. Something I wish we could share with everybody.
And then finally, one of the students giving a presentation saying he wanted to be an astronaut was saying how hard it is to get into the space program. So for you, do you remember that challenge of getting in, and how hard was it for you?
Well, you know, what I would say is, you know, I'm no genius. My high school counselor reminded me of that. You know, he said, you're no genius, but hard work will make up for that, and curiosity. And he was absolutely right. So I wouldn't want any student to feel like you have to be an absolute Einstein to do this job. You need to be determined, hardworking, a team player, and really passionate about your interests. And that narrows down to a considerably smaller pool of people that are really eligible to do this job. It's not quite the super geniuses that a lot of people think it is. But find something that's useful to the space program, get passionate about it, because you can't be good at anything unless you really love it. But if it's something the space program needs, bring those skills to the table, to our table, keep in touch with us, and the closer you get to us, the more you'll find about what it takes to be an astronaut. And finally, I would just say that the opportunities to fly in space are only growing. And that's what makes this a really exciting time for people. So I would say keep at it, and the opportunities will change immensely by the time you're ready to go.
Do you think the words from your guidance counselor kind of help fuel that fire of, well, you said, I'm not smart enough, but I'm going to prove you wrong?
I don't think I was out to prove him wrong. I believed him, and he was right. You know, hard work and curiosity carry you very, very far. And, you know, when you look at the people in the astronaut corps, I mean, we are an interesting slice of humanity, but what makes us mostly who we are is curiosity and dedication to what we believe, and that kind of willingness to get along with people who think differently but think amazingly. So, yeah, I mean, he was right, and I think I'm right. You don't have to be super smart. You have to be smart enough, and it has to be something that's useful to us, but be determined and be passionate about what you love. And that's how I got here.
You're up there with a couple of first-timers. So what do you offer them having that experience of being up there before, but also what do they offer you for being a first-timer?
Well, that's a really good question. You know, I'm nothing if not a naturalist with a notebook, and they all know that I'm kind of a space medicine guy. I have 3 first-timers up here, and one of my joys is actually to watch others go through this adaptation process. And that's both physical, medical, mental, behavioral, and I really enjoy that. I've tried to pass on as many pearls as I could to make the process a little bit easier. But everybody's lived experience is a little bit different. Having said that, everybody goes through common gates of adaptation, and you watch them become 3-dimensional creatures that can navigate between modules. And to me, that is absolutely one of my joys. And sitting around the galley table at night, well, nobody sits up here, floating around the galley table at night, sharing those stories is just one of my absolute delights up here.
How does your work impact future space endeavors?
Well, I can answer that maybe on a personal and a broader level. On a personal level, medicine is my passion. I'm senior editor on a space medical textbook, and to be sure, that means myself and 75 of my closest friends have tried to capture the knowledge base, the standard of care of space medicine, and we're trying to carry that forward and keep it alive and keep it revising. So to me, that's probably one of the more important things I do for the effort. On a broader basis, the space station is really akin to a low Earth orbit wind tunnel, if you will. It is a place where we can test things before we throw platforms and vehicles further to the moon, to Mars. We can test in spaceflight conditions every life support system, science package, fuel transfer, all sorts of things that are bread and butter to spaceflight and space exploration. We can do that here because we're a really well-supplied laboratory and well-staffed and well-supported from the ground. So this really becomes a stepping stone to many, many different places in the kind of the broader picture of spaceflight and human expansion in my mind.
I'm going to take you back down to Earth for the last question. You grew up in the Camas area. Talk about your childhood and how that prepared you for this.
Well, it was a great childhood. It's always greater in retrospect, but, we had a farm. My mom and dad both worked, which meant my brothers and I ended up taking care of the farm a lot and going to school. There could be no better training for up here because we were always fixing things, and we always had duties beyond the schoolwork. You get up in the morning, you feed animals, you come back, you feed animals, and there were certainly others in my school that had similar experiences. You learn to improvise. You learn to just make things work, and sometimes it's not comfortable to get up and it's really cold and you still got to go out there and do your chores before school. That was probably one of the best preparations. Another one was that my parents insisted that we learn to cook and kind of help with that and just kind of be self-sustaining. And those little life skills that kind of carry you forward, I think those were big success factors. The Camas area was just a perfect place to grow up. The skies used to be very dark. They're not quite as dark now, but it was a great place to use my telescope at night and to really nurture a lot of my interests. So I really couldn't have asked for a better childhood.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I have one kind of final clarification. Do you go by Mike or Michael?
You know, at either one. My mom would call me Michael, but usually when I was in trouble. So, Michael is maybe a little bit more professional, but I will answer to either.
All right. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your time up there in space.
All right. Thank you, Devin. Great to talk to you.
And station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all participants. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.